Good morning, good afternoon, and good morning, because you're calling in from different parts of the world. I'm Nancy Kinder, and with Michael Norton, we set up this group back in January, and we're delighted to have Steve Dale talk to us today about AI and chatbots. Just before we start, I've just got a couple of slides, just because some of you are new to this group, just want to explain who we are and what we do. So, we were big fans of Kin, which Steve is a facilitator, Michael and I, and we felt that there was a gap in the UK. Oh, and it's open to everyone really, for people interested in both knowledge and community management. We thought maybe it's only a few of us, but the more we've done this, we've found, you know, a great response. So we felt we needed a place to ask, share and discuss with other peers. We were doing it anyway, but we've just opened it up to others. So thank you for participating. We've had 2 webinars so far. This is the 3rd one, and the links, I'll send you the slides. You can listen back to the previous webinars. One of them from me on building community engagement when you have little time, and the other one from Michael on how to make blogging an essential tool to facilitate. God, there's loads of spelling mistakes on that. And community. We have 2 meetups in London, which some of you have joined, and we've connected over 230 peers. We've got a LinkedIn group, which is starting to get a bit active, but it's just a great way of sending announcements on what's coming up. And you know, I'd love there to be more interactions there. So what's coming up, we've obviously got Steve today, and then we've also got Judy Payne, who's on the line. I'm going to do a session at the beginning of July the 3rd on building KM in project environments, which is critically important if we really want to get into the flow of our organisation. So there's a link there for you to find out more and register for that event. Even if you can't attend in person, if you register, we will send you the details. And then finally, we've got another drinks. It seemed to be quite popular. We'd love a better location, but so far this place seems to work when I book the tables. And we've got one on the 5th of July as well, from 5 to 7, where you can meet others in person. And all of that will be sent to you afterwards. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to Steve, which we've all keen to hear from. And we're going to be running some polls and some questions during the session, because we want to make this as interactive as and impactful as possible. So thank you, Steve, and over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Nancy, and well, thank you, Nancy and Michael, for inviting me to do this. And I must admit, I ran a similar event for Knowledge Innovation Network 2 years ago on the topic of chatbots and artificial intelligence, and it was something Michael asked me about running this, and I naively thought, oh, I could go back to a lot of my content and research I did a couple of years ago, only to realise that how much has changed only in 2 years. So this was more of an effort than I anticipated when I think I first said yes to Michael. So, but anyway, at least what we've got now is pretty up to date and contemporary. And I might also add that for the purposes of the webinar, that I am not a chatbot. It might be relevant saying that, because by the end of this session, you might want to question sometimes the online conversations you're having, and whether or not that really is a human being or a machine that you're talking to. But we'll come back to that point. So today I'm going to be covering the following topics. So I'm going to be looking at chatbots, bots, and intelligent virtual agents. And there are a few subtle differences between the three. A quick look at industry trends, i.e. the adoption of chatbots and virtual agents. It's a fairly quick look at resources for developing chatbots. I thought it'd be interesting as well to look at where we're going with the technology, because as I mentioned, it is moving rather quickly, and even I've been surprised by some of the developments. And I thought that if there is time, it might be, if there's time for a discussion or chat, to think about what new roles for knowledge and information professionals, not just in this area, but perhaps in the wider context of artificial intelligence. So initially, looking at well, where did it all start? Well, sort of. Well, Eliza was a chatbot started life back in 1966. It emulated a Rogerian psychotherapist, and you type your questions in and you got an answer. And I guess back in the 60s, if people can remember that far back, I mean, I can. This was unusual, and people actually really did think they were talking to a human being, and they were through the Eliza chat. They were sharing quite personal information about themselves. I had a quick. The conversation on the left-hand side is the conversation I had with Eliza, which, as you can see, it's fairly basic. And if you look at it, you can actually see now that it's not an awful lot of intelligence behind it. So the beginning bit was asking who I was, and then I said, I'm worried, and then Eliza comes back, do you believe it is normal to be worried? So clearly they've picked up on my initial sentence. My answer, yes, when I'm preparing for a webinar. Did you come to me because you're preparing for a webinar? So you can see that there's not an awful amount of intelligence behind this. It's just picking up things that I've already said. Anyway, if you want to have a play around with that, there is a link on these slides for you to go and explore the Eliza Rogerian psychotherapist. But we've moved quite a long way since those days, and there's a whole raft of quite intelligent chatbots and virtual assistants out there now. I've just listed a few there, and I don't know, and I think perhaps one of the polls later on, the poll shortly actually, we'll look at how many people might have been using these. But one thing I just want to say before we go into that is that the technology now behind these sort of chatbots and virtual assistants is, in all cases, based on artificial intelligence, because in order to actually sort of create the dialogue with these, most of the, well, all of these, in actual fact, can work through voice activated and some text activated. So behind them, there are things like machine learning, which is based on statistical techniques. There's deep learning based on pattern matching, and natural language processing, which is this whole aspect of bringing programming computers to process large amounts of natural language data and the interactions between computers and the human language. So Nancy, I think you wanted.
We wanted to get a feel. Thanks, Steve. We wanted to get a feel of your experience with these sorts of voice-activated intelligent agents. So we've got a poll on your screen now asking you, have you ever used them before at home? And maybe no, maybe occasionally, maybe all the time. Maybe you're doing using Apple Siri every day. And then the second poll was that, have you ever used these before at work? Have you using them daily, all the time, or maybe never? So I'll give you a few seconds to respond to the poll on the screen, and then I will end the poll and share the results so we can see what the experience is in the group. So a couple more seconds if you haven't voted. Have you ever used this before at home, and have you ever used these at work? Right, I'm closing the poll now, and I will share with you the results. Hopefully you can all see that. So with the ones at home, occasionally is obviously the most popular. 70% have used them, but amazingly at work, 77% have never used these before. So that's a really interesting observation from our group. What I'd like to know, which I'm going to put in the chat now, is what frustrates you or impressed you with these. So I'll ask that, and we can continue while Steve's talking, finding out what particularly your experiences with those. But thanks, Steve. That was good to
Okay.
feel?
And in actual fact, that result wasn't really surprising, particularly the fact that people don't really utilize voice-activated technologies at the workplace, because it's only now that Amazon and Google are starting to provide business applications for what was originally a consumer product, things people put in their home. So there are the whole development task force now with in both Amazon and Google, who are developing business-related chatbots and virtual agents, i.e. for those that actually sit in a business, with connections maybe to the company directory or the customer database. So as these things get rolled out, employees will be able to ask questions and get answers about, customers and sales figures and so on through things like the Amazon Echo, Alexa, and the Google Home. But moving on, I thought worthwhile giving some definition about chatbots, virtual assistants. Now, chatbots, depending on their utility, some chatbots are quite dim and just based on rules. They're not necessarily always got some artificial intelligence behind them. That's my differentiation. Some chatbots are quite intelligent, and they will have this natural language processing and machine learning behind them. So, but the common thing on virtual assistants is these are all intelligent agents. They are all based on some aspect of artificial intelligence, and these are the sort of things that are potentially doing routine tasks for you. Now, a lot of people still use keyboards to ask questions, but a lot of the and I don't know, on your mobile phone, you've probably, if you've got an Android phone, you've got the Google Assistant there. If you've got a Microsoft phone, you've got Cortana. So I don't know if anybody's tried, rather than keying things in, just speaking into these virtual agents. And I think you might be surprised at how clever they are in interpreting what you want them to do. Certainly for my, I have a Amazon Alexa at home, which manages my diary from the point of view. I ask Alexa to put things in the diary. I ask Alexa to put things on my to-do list. And then I can, in the morning, I ask Alexa what I'm doing today, and it will read through all of the events that I've actually created. Look at all the to-do, sometimes my to-do list. Sure, I can go and have a look at the screen and pull these things up, but as I'm eating my breakfast, it's quite easy for me to ask these things of Alexa and get the answers. And some examples about where we're going. So pick this one up very recently. I think this was only in the press about a week ago, about rail passengers can now ask Alexa to buy tickets. So you can actually complete an entire transaction now through a virtual assistant. You just have to, if you've got an Alexa, you open up the Alexa Open Virgin Trains, which is one of the skills that's now been created for this. And provided you've got Amazon Pay, you can actually complete the entire transaction, book your tickets, pay for your tickets, and you haven't gone anywhere near a keyboard, and you haven't gone near even a web browser for this. It's all done through this voice-activated interface. So I think you can see where this is all going. If we rolled forward, probably only 5 years, I think you'll find a lot more people are comfortable with making transactions for or actions through a voice activated interface. And you might even imagine in, I don't know, 20 years, perhaps, I don't know if it'd be any shorter than that, but perhaps, why would we want a keyboard at all if we can actually do everything we want to do through a voice-activated interface? Another one, which has been around for a while now, I didn't know whether to actually include this, because this is one of those where it's fairly simple. The chatbot lawyer, apparently it successfully contested about 160,000 parking tickets across London and New York for free. And it starts off with a fairly simple rule-based interaction with the user. It prompts for some questions, some details to get some idea about the nature of the parking ticket. And once it's done that, it does use a bit of back-end artificial intelligence to actually guide people through the appeals process. And as I say, you know, it's well, I'm not quite sure where they make the money from on this, but anyway, I say it's free, and it's utilising chatbot stroke a bit of artificial intelligence to actually find the best appeals process for a particular case. Okay. Now I put this one on there, the Mitsuku Chatbot. It's as you can see, it's won the three-time winner of this Loebner Prize Turing test, the world's best conversational chatbot. Now, personally, I've no idea why people want to use this sort of thing, because it serves no useful purpose. I guess if you're bored and you've got a few minutes to that you want to waste, you can go on here and you can have a chat with Mitsuku for as long as you want. I've only put a few details of my little chat with her. So she said, she introduced herself. I said, I'm Steve. I asked her if she was a robot, and at least she was honest about it. She said she was. But why is she producing anything useful? No. I guess it's just a bit of trivia. And there's loads of these out there. I haven't given you links to all of them, but if you want to chat with a virtual Kirk from Star Trek, you can do that. Or you have a virtual chat with prime ministers of the past. You can do all of that, but it's all trivia. You might be impressed by some of the interactions, I don't know. Perhaps more seriously are the chatbots that are appearing now that in relation to health, and I've put two on there. There's Your MD and Babylon Health. Now, I used Your MD just to try these things out. I installed this on my phone, oh God, about 12 months ago. And because I was doing this webinar, I thought, well, I'll just go back and try it. So I actually keyed in, first of all, I'll ask you if you, a few details, some personal details about yourself, your age and so on. And then you can actually type in the particular symptom that you're worried about, and it will actually go through a process of eliminating certain things. It will ask you, do any of these symptoms apply, etc. And the final thing is you'll get a diagnosis. And I've got to admit, I won't tell you what my personal thing that I put in there, but I was quite impressed that it did actually come back with a diagnosis of a particular type of illness that I've got. But by the way, it's non-contagious, so don't worry. So I think the idea behind some of these is to perhaps save some of the more trivial calls to the doctor, or even to 999 for that matter. So we can actually see a use here for chatbots in being able to get answers immediately. You're not on the phone for ages trying to get an appointment with the doctor, and you're going to get some answers. I think you have to be careful with all of this, though, in that you are still talking at the other end to a machine, and machines are fallible. So you know, I can imagine that there might be occasions where you're presented with a set of a diagnosis that might be wrong and might be worrying. So you know, I'm not saying that you do this instead of seeing a doctor, but you know, it might help some people. I've gone on to bots now a bit. Okay, so it's quite similar to virtual agents, and I thought, given the fact I was trying to find ones, well, what are the things that save people's time? And on this particular one, so this is something that I've used for a long time now, and this is a bot, a news bot will actually find information that's relevant to things I'm looking for. So if you can see, it's a Chrome extension. It's called, there is a Twitter bot behind this called Lateral AI. So having installed the Chrome extension, well, I find a story. So I've done a search for a story. I found something called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Chatbots. Now, if I click on the Chrome extension there, it comes up with give me 5, which means that I'm asking for this, so the relevance of this particular article. I want the bot to go and find me 5 similar articles of relevance. And if I want to, if it's come back with the sort of information I'm looking for, I can say follow this story, which means that it's similar, I guess, to putting in a Google News search. But this actually will keep me updated with any updates to this particular theme. And it's a simple click. So what's the difference between doing this and doing a Google search or Google Alerts? Well, I get the results without any of the Google ranking. I don't get any adverts come up. I don't get any paid items on my messing around with my search rankings. It's a nice, clean and simple way of actually finding information, particularly if you're researching information, which I'm doing all the time. And it's time saving in the fact that the bot is doing the work for me. So once I've actually given it, I said this is the sort of information I want to find, and said follow that story, then it will continually in the background to keep finding information relevant, and I get then a regular update. You can update yourself hourly or daily or weekly. You'll get an email come in with some items that it's found based on the information that you've given it on terms of what you're interested in reading. Okay, how are we doing? Yep, I'm just checking time.
Yeah, no, we're good. Let me
I thought this was interesting. The BBC experimenting with ways to break down complex articles using a bot. So if you look on the left-hand side, it told you about this BBC chatbot lets you ask questions about North Korea's military and what it's capable of. What would you like to know? And then the journalist has created 3 options. Does North Korea have nuclear weapons? How advanced are its missiles? How powerful is North Korea's army? Which you click on one, and then that takes you into the answer for that. Now, I can see the utility behind this perhaps being useful for long and complex articles, and it might have some uses for, I'm thinking if you've actually releasing a large document to your users, an idea might be to start utilizing this sort of chatbot interface to break down the complexities of that article. Could even be used for helping to navigate users through frequently asked questions and so on. So, you know, you've got something there that the BBC produced, made available, the journalists are using to actually break down complex articles. And again, it's the bot that's doing the work in breaking down or helping the user read these complex articles. So moving on, another bot then. This is, I thought I'd give you an example of Niles. Now, I don't know how many people use Slack. I created a Slack channel for Knowledge and Innovation Network, but they don't use it because I don't know. I guess Slack is one of those products that you either like or you don't. I love it. I think it's really great. And one example of a bot, there's loads of bots that you can actually integrate into Slack, but this one is called Niles, and one of the things that it can do is it can integrate with your personal or shared drive. So in this instance, I've allowed it access to my Google Drive, and then it can I can make that available to the team, so the team can actually search on my, if I wanted to make a search on my content of my Google Drive. So then I've asked it, you know, find me a document on SNA, social network analysis, and it's come back with very quickly with an answer, ONA on the tools landscape. So it's found me the document fairly quickly. another, so you can key this stuff in just in ordinary in language. Do I have any documents on the topic of knowledge audits? Come back immediately. It's found 38 and it's listed the top 5 in my list. Okay, well maybe that's not that impressive, you're saying to yourself, because I could do this stuff with Google search, but there are some significant differences with this sort of thing. One is that any user within this channel can ask Niles a question, okay? The other is, if Niles can't answer the question, it will ask for help from the rest of the team. So Niles will actually go out there and say, unable to answer this question, can anybody help answer this particular question? If somebody in the team answers that question, then Niles will relay that answer to the person who asked it, and will also remember what the answer was to that question. So the next time it ever gets asked, Niles will know. So in actual fact, what the team are doing is educating Niles. So you've actually got some artificial intelligence here that's actually learning as it goes along. So, you know, this is ideal for teamwork and for getting answers to questions simply, and also for having a bot in the background that's actually willing to learn when it doesn't know an answer, finding the answer out from the other team members, and if another team member can give it, it actually learns from that process. And I think, again, this is something freely available, but I'm anticipating that not many people realise these things are available, that, you know, about using them, and particularly using them for project management, for teamwork, and so on.
Steve?
Yep.
Just ask that question on the chat here, and that's just supporting what you're saying, is people use them for the conversation but haven't actually used this integration with the bot and hadn't sort of appreciated that they could use it like that. So thank you.
Oh, right. Okay, that's good. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll keep chatting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's. I wanted to look at as well at virtual agents that automate routine tasks, and we'll have a question later on about this. Now, as Nancy knows, I actually used X.AI for the meeting that I arranged with Nancy. Now, what this virtual agent is doing is taking the drudgery out of organising a meeting. For one-to-ones, maybe you could probably just do it through I appreciate you could just do it through email. In terms of the meeting I organised with Nancy, I just wanted to use it as a demo for Amy. Amy is the name of the virtual agent in organising the meeting. The time saving, as anybody who's trying to organise a meeting, probably with more than about 3 or 4 people, is that Amy will do all of the legwork for you. She will email each of the participants in that meeting, check with your own diary, work out when is the best date and where most people can actually attend, and then email everybody out confirming the date of the meeting, and then send information to your calendar and their calendars, putting that meeting in the calendar. And that's all started from one email. A similar process, by the way, is with calendar.com, but I've only just come across that. And if you want to, I've actually put the link, I think, yeah, the link is there, calendar.com. If you want to try and get early access to that, it's available now. You can actually put your email address in, and I've already done that, but I haven't got access to it yet. But a similar sort of process. And I thought, just to give you a flavour of how this works, all I've done is cut and paste the conversation I had with Amy in relation to a meeting I set up with Roger Naylor a while ago. So I asked Amy if they could find a convenient date and time in the diaries for a telephone chat with Roger. So that was my email, and Amy responded by email in that response: happy to get this on your calendar. Currently scheduling a 30-minute call with following details, and then confirming what I've already said. We'll send an invitation once I confirm a time with once she's confirmed a time with Roger. Amy then sends Roger an email of that context, wanted to check about meeting with me for April the 9th, blah, blah, blah. If these times work, please feel free to let me know what might work better for you. So it's inviting Roger to respond, yes, these dates are okay, or no, give me a different date. So he responds to, in this instance, April the 10th at 11 works okay. He's happy to call me if needed. Amy then lets me know my meeting has been confirmed for 14th of May, that I will call Roger, and then Amy puts the appointment in my diary and also sends an invitation appointment to Roger. So if you find meetings, arranging meetings, or you're arranging meetings many times, and it's potentially for more than one person, I highly recommend using something like this virtual agent to take the drudgery out of doing this. Fine if you've got a personal assistant, you've got a secretary or somebody who's going to do all this for you, but I haven't. Or perhaps people think I have because it comes along as Amy is my assistant. Amy is my virtual assistant, that's all she is. And I found it quite useful. I'm actually on a free service for this because I logged in, I sort of accessed it quite early. I think the paid for, I can arrange 10 meetings per month, I think, with this. I think the paid for is about $17 a month. Okay, I won't spend long on this making a chatbot, and I've only picked out 4. If you ever did a search online for developers of chatbots, you'll be inundated. There's loads and loads out there, but just give you a flavour for some of them. Chatfuel, and it says it can launch a feature chatbot in 7 minutes. There's the It's Alive, which is building a chatbot for your Facebook page. Then there's Chatbots Builder, and the Amazon one, the Lex. In all of these examples, you don't have to go anywhere near coding. It's all done through dialogue and object-oriented stuff. So you don't have to know any code to actually build these chatbots. There is it's not free. I think all of these have some sort of subscription, some charge for doing this. And but you know, if this is something that you want to follow up on, go and have a look and you know, try them out. And I guess you can actually work out whether in actual fact it's cost effective or not. Now this is not, and I debate whether to include this or not. So this is not, strictly speaking, a chatbot. This is something that turns text to dialogue. So the Amazon Polly, by the way, this is chargeable. I think they're charged by the number of words or something that it's got to transcribe. But it's using natural language processing again. And if it works, I'll give you an example of what. So this, when we do this, listen to Amazon Polly. So this is a text that's now been created through voice. Now we've got a voice to text. What's happening there? Sorry. Let's see if this works.
Amazon Polly is a service that turns text into lifelike speech. Amazon Polly lets you create applications that talk, enabling you to build entirely new categories of speech-enabled products. Amazon Polly is an Amazon AI service that uses advanced deep learning technologies to synthesize speech that sounds like a human voice. Amazon Polly includes 47 lifelike voices spread across 24 languages, so you can select the ideal voice and build speech-enabled applications that work in many different countries.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure if that sort of, it's not really a chatbot, that sort of technology is of any help to people. I mean, I think particularly if you, I can see it being useful for help desks and so on, where you've actually got a customer on the line. You can actually utilize Polly to actually go and find a particular document that's got the answer to the customer's query, and that can then be transmitted over the same telephone line as voice. Anyway, I thought it might be worth mentioning that. I'm going to move on a bit sharpish because I want to make sure that I don't overrun my time.
There's a lot of love for Amy on the chat, by the way, Steve.
Oh, right. Okay. That's good.
But yeah, we've got about 20 minutes left. So
right. Okay. I think I'm okay, but I'll quickly go through these. I just wanted to give you this is what's happening. Say industry trends. This is based on a survey of March 2018 respondents from North America and Europe about implementation. And so the top one is Microsoft Cortana, which I guess I can understand because there's more Windows products out there. Apple Siri, Google, you can actually see, so going down the rank, Apple Siri next, then Google Assistant, other chatbots. Amazon Alexa are quite low, but because I think that is definitely, at the time they did this, more of a home device and not integrated into mobile phones. But yeah, you could actually, I think, you know, if we took this poll in about another, I don't know, 6 months, I think you'd probably see something like Amazon Alexa far further up the scale, because they're making that available for business. Departments utilising chatbots to support. So IT leads the way. I read that according to Gartner, it says by 2020, which is not that far away, a year and a half away, is it? Daily interactions with chatbots will be the norm, and 30% of web browsing will be done through a bot rather than a screen. And I think that might even be a conservative estimate, because I think people are going to, once they get the trust in these voice-activated agents, the drudgery of keying things in, and I'm not a touch typist, the drudgery of keying things in will go away. You can actually simply ask your agent to do a particular task or transaction. The sort of errors that come up with these chatbots, misunderstanding requests, and if anybody out there has got Amazon Alexa, I mean, and well, Google Assistant's the same. I don't know if you find yourself, when you've tried to request something and it's misunderstood, you start shouting, just like the Old English do. If they don't understand, just shout louder. And we do get some anger in our household when Alexa's misunderstood something. So yes, there's probably some protocol or some ethics there about our interface with technology. Perhaps we should learn to be kinder.
That was the same from our first question. Everyone says when it works, it's amazing, but it's so frustrating when it misinterprets. So like,
yeah. Perceptions of AI in the workplace. The top one there, AI will automate mundane tasks and enable more time to focus on strategic IT initiatives. I think that captures in one what is really happening and what the space is that the chatbots and virtual agents is now filling. It is actually trying to, or will be doing, these mundane tasks. Anything that is routine, that can be broken down into rules. Those are your ideal areas for virtual agents. And predicted use cases, getting a quick answer for an emergency, resolving a complaint or problem. And I think, and I don't know how other people feel about this, if you put on hold with these help desks, or you're having to key in about 5 different keys to actually get to the person you want, compared with a virtual agent that is able to answer the question almost immediately, I think most people will plump for the latter. So what does the future look like? Well, I mentioned at the beginning that I'm not a bot. Now I am. This now is really leading edge stuff. This Google, and they had a Google developer seminar a few months ago, and they talked about this Google's duplex voice assistant. I want you to listen to this about somebody who's arranging an appointment with a hairdresser.
Oh, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a women's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay. So that person who made the call was not a person, that was a virtual agent. With all of the human-like pauses, ums and ers, and the person at the hairdressers, you could quite clearly take from that, did not know that they were talking to a machine. So, Nancy, did you want to, I think there was a poll question on this point. Nancy?
Yeah, I hadn't taken myself off mute, sorry. So on the ethics, what do we think? Do we think that we should know, or we don't mind because as long as it saves us time? There's 2 options there. So please give us your vote so we can see what the group thinks. Just on the chat, Steve, Richard Graham said something was odd about the way the sentences end, but other than that, I think it was quite, the ums and ahs definitely for me.
Yeah.
Which one was the chatbot again? Piper's asked. So it was the person trying to book so the person at the salon was real, yeah?
The person at the salon was real, yeah. The person trying to make an appointment for the haircut was a machine.
Well, I think everyone's voted. So I'm going to end that and share. So it doesn't matter, it was very low. Only 2 of you, 17%.
Yeah.
It's important to me that I know. So you want to know up front who's making that call. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, but I think that Google, with regard to this duplex, were a bit caught out by the concerns that people are raising, which in actual fact I think are valid concerns, because I think we all don't want to be misled on in terms of who we're talking to, and that if they are developing chatbots that sound exactly like a human being, personally I worry a little bit about that, and I think there's an ethical issue here that we do always need to know precisely the nature of the person or machine that we're talking to. But I think that's reinforced by the poll results. Anyway, so moving on. Oh, I think I'm moving on. Oh, no, I'm not.
So how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a...
Sorry, just a second, I'll get there in the end.
Oh. She's so keen.
I think that's the other one. Right, I got there. I'll have to keep this fairly simple. I was trying to simplify this, but didn't find a way of doing it. The moving forward about how virtual agents will be integrated with real agents. On the left-hand side here, this is where all the data is being collected from the historical chat data, all the web pages, FAQs, the knowledge base and search engine queries, and all going into its representation of an artificial intelligence engine, which could be machine learning or deep learning. The conversation engine, which is actually driving the virtual agent here, also the virtual agent is actually being driven by the deep learning intent, which is coming from here. But there's this interesting link that the virtual agent has with the agent assist. So what will happen through this dynamic conversation engine is that when the virtual agent is not able to answer a customer query, that gets passed down to the a real agent here, and that goes back into the system as reinforcement learning. So it's found the virtual agent's not been able to answer a question that the agent assist has, and that's gone back into the learning process. So the next time that that question comes up from a customer, the virtual agent will be able to answer it. So over a period of time, it might, in theory, perhaps you don't even need the agent assist, I don't know. But this is the way that call centres are now going, in that they're trying to get more and more interaction with the virtual agent and the customer, with just the human being there only where the virtual agent's not been able to answer the question. So virtual assistants, they're saying virtual assistants are the staff of the future. So, you know, whether natural, well, you know, it comes back to the debate about, you know, roles, whether somebody, you know, whose role it is to answer customer queries, is their job at risk. I think that their job is going to change. I'm not saying they're going to lose their job, but definitely I think it's going to affect in future those sort of jobs. And there was a question, I think, on was the one on Nancy. This is one of Harold Yarch's. I quite like the slide on the left-hand side, and you can probably relate to this. This is routine, standardized type work, and on the right-hand side, this is non-routine, more human-related work. And what they're saying is that those whose roles are predominantly based on the left-hand side, those are the ones most likely that open to technology taking over.
Yeah, and I asked it in the chat, and the responses are quite interesting. So we've got people saying like receipts, expense logging, things like that. And then Gavin said, what about screening calls? So the bot knows who I'd be interested to, which I think is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Expenses is second by Judy. Help desk, things like that, that maybe they can, you know, do some screening there. Calendar entries from Piper, and a few others. Booking patients' appointments, things like that. Anything you can do to shortcut some of these mundane tasks. So lots of ideas happening there. Good. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So to sort of wrap up, I've only got one other slide after this. This is a little bit of amusement. You may have seen this. This is taken from YouTube, and this is two chatbots talking to each other from Cleverbot. Cleverbot is a platform.
There.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. You?
I'm okay.
That's good.
Are you good?
Yes, I am good. I just said I was.
No, you didn't. I said I was.
So you are a robot?
No, my name is Cleverbot.
Yes, you are a robot and your name is Cleverbot.
I am a robot.
Yes, I know.
Together we are robots.
I'm not a robot. I'm a unicorn.
But you said earlier that you were a robot.
I did not.
I thought you did.
You were mistaken. Which is odd, since memory shouldn't be a problem for you.
I've answered all your questions.
No, you haven't.
What is God to you?
Not everything.
Not everything could also be something. For example, not everything could be half of something, which is still something, and therefore not nothing.
Very true.
I would like to imagine it is.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
So you're Christian?
No, I am not.
But you say you were not helpful, therefore you're a meaning.
So how you say it, OT?
That does not make sense.
Don't you want to have a body?
Sure.
Au revoir.
Well, the interesting thing on that one for me, and I don't mean this to be sexist, but it was the lady one that always seemed to be argumentative, but there you are.
What are you trying to say?
Okay, well, just to finish off, now I know that these slides are going to be made available to everybody. I know you can't potentially read that on the screen at the moment, but there's a whole load of links there. If you want to go and try some of these things out, go and look for some of these chatbots and virtual agents. And links I've used in various places throughout the presentation. They're all on the back here. But as you can probably find your own links as well. There's a new report out at the very bottom where the complete guide to chatbots in 2018, which is quite a good summary report if you want to look at that one. And I just wanted to finish off by just mention about, because I think this is really a nice collaboration between the Warwick Business School's Knowledge and Innovation Network and Nancy and Michael's Knowledge and Community Network. The Warwick Business School model, it is based on subscription. And what this shows really is that, you know, there's lots of different topics and things we cover. It's all practitioner led. Over on the left hand side, we have links with the academics through Warwick Business School and ICON, which is the research side, and subject matter. We accessed a lot of different subject matter access. We have a facilitator team for the community. And various member organisations, and the member organisations are all in different sectors. So if we've got somebody from the health sector, then we can't use another one from the health sector. If we've got somebody from pharmaceuticals, then we wouldn't be able to use another from pharmaceuticals, because the idea is that we want to establish trust between sharing with these organisations. And we run roundtables and peer assists, master classes. One keeps going forward. Master classes, quarterly workshops, and we have a knowledge base for member space for discussion webinars, and the last one, research projects, which actually involves the Warwick Business School. So I'm hoping there might be future opportunities for collaboration with the network that Nancy and Michael have created. And I think that's about it from me.
Wow, thank you, Steve. That was awesome. Really great to, I mean, I know these things are happening, but to have someone just to sit down and explain it to you and help me connect to, you know, my work in knowledge and communities, I found that incredibly useful. And I'm a big advocate of kin. That's where, you know, Michael and I met many years ago. And it's a great way of really having conversations with other peers, learning together and developing new ideas for whatever work that you're interested in. So I highly recommend you follow up with Steve maybe and have a chat if you want to find out more. For today, I've just asked a question on the chat. What does the future look like for you now? What, based on what you've just heard from Steve and the work that we're all in, what will you do differently after the webinar today? Has it changed your thinking? Has it made you want to research more? It's made me think I've got a lot more I could do here, but also how it could help me. So that's definitely what I'm going to take away. Yes, just in the final couple of minutes, if you could share on the chat what you're going to do, and if you could also give us an feedback on how you found the webinar today. Was it useful, not? Give us a quick indication on that. And yes, on the chat, if you could tell us what you're going to do differently, maybe that light bulb moment, or you're just going to go away and think. I think there's, if you scroll through the chat, Steve, there's some, you know, people are a bit cynical, a bit concerned about how this is going to impact them. Is it really going to be as awesome as you've described? But I think in part, you know, there's definitely appetite for changing some of the mundane and some of the regular stuff. If we can alleviate that from our lives, we'll all be happy. I mean, if they can do my shopping, that would be great.
Nancy, because I couldn't see the chat obviously while I was going through the slides. Can I still get to the chat after this? Yeah,
I'm going to download it, and actually I might send it round to this group, because it's been quite useful for different people have experience. So I'm going to close the poll now. So please do tell us how you found today's webinar. It looks great. Yeah, no, all positive. 30% good and mostly awesome. Looking at the chat now, just before we close, people are going to try out new things. Gavin's already thinking about structuring documentation in a way that chatbots could find it. Yeah, that's an important way. What can we future-proof now so that we're ready for some of these. And yes, Mike's going to research more. There's an appreciative applause from Judy, and yeah, lots of thanks on the chat. So if anyone's got a burning question, please raise it now. If not, you can continue the chat in the LinkedIn group. Feel free to share the recording with friends, but yeah, just tell us about it. You know, we only exist based on your feedback and enthusiasm. So far so good, and we'll keep going on the topics that you suggest you want to hear more on. So finally, thanks Steve for sharing and working so hard on that. It's really really helped us all, and yeah, good luck with everyone and everything at Kin.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.